On April 15, 1912, the unsinkable ship sank in 2 hours and 40 minutes. 1,517 people died. The reasons why are darker than the movie ever showed. As you delve into the history of the Titanic, you'll find that the ship received its first iceberg warning at 9 a.m. on April 14, 1912, from the SS Caronia, which had spotted icebergs in the area. Can you imagine being on the bridge of the Titanic, receiving such a warning, and yet still proceeding at full speed? The Titanic was the largest ship in the world at the time, measuring 882 feet 9 inches in length, and it was on its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York City, carrying 2,224 people, including 330 first-class passengers, such as millionaires John Jacob Astor and Benjamin Guggenheim. On April 10, 1912, the ship had set sail from Southampton, England, and by April 14, 1912, it had reached a speed of 22 knots, despite the warnings of icebergs in the area. The ship's lookouts, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee, were not provided with binoculars, as they were locked in a cabinet, and the key was not available. What would have happened if they had those binoculars, and could you have made a different decision if you were in their shoes? As the night of April 14, 1912, wore on, the Titanic received several more iceberg warnings, including one from the SS Mesaba at 9:40 p.m., which reported a large number of icebergs in the area, and another from the SS Californian at 11 p.m., which was stopped for the night due to heavy ice. However, the Titanic's crew, under the command of Captain Edward Smith, who had 26 years of experience, and was known for his bravery, ignored these warnings, and the ship continued to steam at full speed. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14, 1912, the Titanic struck an iceberg on its starboard side, which caused significant damage to the ship's hull, and by 12 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the crew had begun to send out distress signals, including the famous CQD and SOS messages. Can you understand why the crew of the Californian, which was only 19 miles away, ignored these distress signals, and what would have happened if they had responded promptly? As the crew of the Titanic tried to save the ship, they launched the lifeboats, but they were not filled to capacity, with some boats having as few as 28 people on board, despite having a capacity of 65. The class-based survival rates were also stark, with 60% of first-class passengers surviving, compared to only 24% of third-class passengers, and 23% of the crew. The ship's band, led by Wallace Hartley, played music on the boat deck, including the famous song, "Nearer, My God, to Thee," as the crew and passengers tried to evacuate the ship. By 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the Titanic had sunk, and the survivors were left to fend for themselves in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic. What would you have done if you were one of the crew members, and how would you have reacted to the unfolding disaster? The sinking of the Titanic had a significant impact on maritime safety, with the implementation of a system of ice patrols, and the use of radio communication to report icebergs, as recommended by the British Board of Trade's inquiry into the disaster, led by Lord Mersey, which was published on July 30, 1912. The disaster also led to changes in lifeboat regulations, with the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, SOLAS, being established in 1914, which mandated that all ships have enough lifeboats to accommodate every person on board. Can you think of any other disaster that has had such a profound impact on safety regulations, and how has it changed the way we travel by sea? As you reflect on the story of the Titanic, you're left with a haunting question: what if the crew had taken those iceberg warnings seriously, and slowed down or changed course? Would the tragedy have been avoided, and how would it have changed the course of history?